This is an update of ADS version 1.270. This release includes a passive backup system. When you open a file that you're working on, it will save a copy into the working folder titled with the date, and it will keep them for 30 days. So if there's ever a problem with the software corrupting your file, you can go back at least 1 day and recover. You can load the files opening the project folder, and in the project folder, there will be a new file folder for backups and a version for each day, and files older than 30 days will be deleted. So this release includes new constraint-based dimensions. You can add a dimension to an object, select the dimension tool, hold down the shift key and select on an object. Keeping the shift key held down, click on another object. For just a 2-point dimension, after we've clicked 2 points, I hit enter and it will snap to the object. When I select the dimension object, I have several options. One, I can specify the linear distance. So I'll say 15 as an example. And you can also specify an XYZ coordinate system. If you specify the XYZ, the linear distance will be 0, let's say 10, 5. It's going to, if it's anchored to the A object, you can see on the label on the dimension A and B. So you can specify where you want to attach either a edge, in this case, or a vertex, which will pick the closest point, or the object center. In this case, I'm going to keep the edge. You can adjust the edge. By typing in the value. And I can check either of these options, anchor at A, or anchor at B, or neither. So these objects are not anchored. If I drag one, it will pull the other. If I anchor A, -5. -5. So I can set absolute positioning relative to the anchored object. I can also, once I've created the dimension and it's attached to an object, I can change that location by clicking on these buttons, set A connection or set B connection. If I click on this, I can change the location. If I click on an object that's anchored, it will drag the attached object based on the constraint. If I grab the object that is connected not anchored, it's just going to pull it back. Now this is going to take some work to sort out. There may be some performance implications, and we will definitely do some work to update how these dimensions and constraints are displayed on the screen. We will want to make them toggleable or indicate how the dimensions are implemented, or when the dimensions are not correct. You could potentially add constraints that can't be solved. So you could add 2 dimensions with different sizes and that won't be resolvable. So maybe we'll indicate that. That's all to come. This is just a first version. Here's another example. These 2 cubes are connected by the object center. So if I drag one around, it's going to pull the other. If I anchor one, this A object, I can drag this around and it's going to pull the object attached on B around. You can also use it for Boolean objects. So in this case, I have a cube, and inside I have a subtract operation with a cube and a cylinder, and I use dimensions to offset the objects that apply the Boolean operation. So in this case, I have a cube and I want the distance to be 3 or 3.5, and you can see it moves and it modifies the shape. I can also drag it around because the constraint just says that I want, the constraint just specifies that I want 3 or 2 from the center. I can also specify edges or vertices. In this case, I want the dimension from the center. I can also specify absolute position, so x 2.5, y 1. And if I click on this object and I drag it away, it will pull it back into the correct location. Now, the reason that the objects aren't snapped instantly is I'm planning for the use case where a complex scene has many, many dimensions. And if you make a modification to one of the dimensions and it makes a bunch of changes that you can't recognize, I want the changes to take place over time so that you can see the changes that you make in the dimension, how they apply to the scene, so that you can verify that what you've changed is correct or make an undo operation. So this will be extended in the future. There's a lot of use cases that we will have to take into account, but this is just the first version, and files saved under this new release of 1.2.70 will only be compatible with this release and future releases. So files saved with past versions of ADS will open in this new version, but if you save under 1.2.70, you won't be able to open them under previous versions of ADS. To get ADS, go to armaautomotive.com/build. Thanks.